webinar, Portugal Calling webinar. The metaphorically honeymoon folks who've agreed to join us tonight are Jordan and Rita, David and Iryna, and Mike Freeman there, as you can see, waving to you from their screens. Newly in Portugal, just landed and open to answering questions, bless them, on their process to get here and their first impressions of being in Portugal. If I could ask everybody who is not Jordan and Rita and David and Iryna and Mike to mute up, that would be great, because I think there are a few mics open just now. But welcome. Let's get started. Let me introduce you. The first I can see on my screen are Jordan and Rita. So I have a few things to tell you about them. Jordan Zimmerman and Rita Can, they lived in Monterey, California in the United States for over 20 years, and then decided to go on an adventure and move to Panama City, Panama, where they've lived for the last 7.5 years. Often it's interesting, actually, because Panama and Portugal are often in the same sentence when considering great places to go in the world. So we can ask them about Panama as well, briefly. While Panama was a fantastic experience, they say, they are now moving to Azeitão, which literally is olive oil in Portuguese, and a beautiful place, headquarters, I believe, of the wonderful Bacalhau wine company south of Lisbon, where you guys are currently based, right, in Airbnbs. Portugal, hoping for milder weather and a quiet European lifestyle is the aspiration. Rita, retired computer programmer, and Jordan, a working digital nomad computer programmer. Rita loves gardening and animals. Jordan loves jazz and whiskey, my kind of guy, and he's a semi-pro drummer as well. They both love food, opera, and travel. So there you go. Thank you so much, Jordan and Rita, for joining us this evening. Really appreciate it. To Mike Freeman now, who I'll tell you a little bit about Mike. Mike and wife Amy arrived in Portugal less than a month ago. Their top reasons to emigrate were, this is number one, it's not the UK. In number one position there. Amy can get an EU passport here in Portugal. 3, it's cryptocurrency friendly. Cryptocurrency may come up once or twice this evening. It's super cheap to live here. And 5, the weather is great. And I think today was the hottest day we've had in Portugal so far. I hope you've enjoyed it, Mike and Amy, today, if you come here for the great weather. Irish mother gave Mike access to an Irish passport, which he acquired last year. That's the means by which he got here, which meant he and Amy could enter Portugal visa-free, which must have been a great relief. Mike has lived in Australia, China, Panama as well, and now Portugal, but still only speaks English, but says he is really committed to learning the local language this time. It's being recorded tonight, Mike. Mike first heard about Mike first heard about cryptocurrency in late 2014 and again in 2017, but failed to run with it. You're not the only one. However, since late 2020, they have 5 times their crypto investments. Probably until last week, it was 6 times, right? Mike and Amy still live a frugal and simple life, and they both feel that moving to Portugal was the smartest thing they've done since investing in crypto. So thank you, Mike, for being here tonight. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
We were going to have Donna and Jim, who you may have seen before from a previous webinar, on our Ask Our Expats slot that we did a few weeks back. Donna and Jim newly arrived here, but Jim had a bit of a medical emergency in the last day, and has had a scan booked, which has meant he couldn't join us tonight. So we send them all our love and best wishes. And it's good to say that they are delighted with it, although they've had a difficult time of this with a health issue. They have had excellent care. I found out being in Portugal, it must be a bit scary being in a new country and needing to access services, and they've been treated really well. So glad to hear that. Lots of love to you, Donna and Jim, standing in for them this evening. So grateful. With hours only of notice, David and Iryna there. Good evening to you both. So I didn't get much of a biography from you. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself in the way that I've just described Jordan and Rita and Mike there, please?
Well, yeah, absolutely. So we're from, obviously, the U.S., if you could tell from our accents. We come from Arizona. We have been thinking about coming for quite a long time, but we just arrived in March. I guess you could say retired. She's definitely retired. I'm probably retired. But we sold our business last year. We came to Portugal because of the weather, because of the people, because of the incredible history. There's so much to see and to do here, and because we have family in Europe. And now being in Europe, we'll be able to see the rest of Europe and visit family, and while we're being close by in Portugal.
Superb. And thank you so much for stepping in at short notice as you've done. Iryna, would you like to add to that? I know you brought poodles with you. People might like to know about bringing animals into Portugal. How are the poodles settling in?
Well, they are now much better than they used to be. It was really difficult. We sent them by cargo and it took 3.5 days.
Oh,
I would say that the company that worked on their transportation was good, but I think all the steps during the process is not very caring for animals, and that's why they were a little bit traumatized. But now they're much better.
oh, good.
But once we got them, they recovered fairly quickly.
Oh, good. Okay.
It was definitely traumatic.
What are they? Can I just ask their names?
Bonaparte and Josephina. They're French poodles, so of course they have to have
Of course, fantastic. That's brilliant. I'm glad they're settling in well and getting over the difficulty of the journey. Brilliant. All right, Renee is here from Canada, working to make it to Portugal by September. Obviously, a lot of people here wanting to do the same thing as you guys have done, and so please do ask your questions in the chat. These folks are going to be looking in the chat, and we'll pick up questions as they come in. But let's say good evening to a few people. Eric J's here from Charlotte, North Carolina. Maria's here from the Ask Our Expats team. Hey everyone, coming to you from a warm and sunny 27 degrees in Tamar today. Has it been a nice day, Maria? Yes, I'm getting a nod there. Brilliant. It gets to 40. It gets to 40 over there in Tamar, possibly even 50 sometimes. Hi from Vancouver, from Miran tonight. Good evening to you. South Africa, San Francisco Bay Area, Cape Town. Amit's here from Alexandria tonight, hoping to be here in July. Hello from Texas, from Cynthia and Lauren and Andrew from Raleigh, North Carolina as well. From Denver tonight as well. Porto as of today. Well done, Paula. You might want to chip in a little bit as well. That's fantastic. Ana Vieira is here. Always very happy to help, from the Ask Our Expats team as well. Boa noite a todas from Cascais, she says. And I'm sure she'll be working the comments this evening as well. Andy in Cavoeiro, hello to you. Good evening, Andy. Lafayette, Louisiana, represented tonight. Cape Town again. North Carolina. So many people from North Carolina. Interesting. Chicago. Adam and Sarah from a wet and windy UK, referring to the weather presumably. Sarah from Phoenix, Arizona, looking to relocate to Portugal. Fantastic. From Florida, there are greetings from Mark as well. Steve and Jackie in South Wales, UK. From Oregon, we have people in the audience from Oregon tonight. Greetings, all from still in capital letters, lockdown in Ontario. Look forward to arriving in Lisbon by August. Things seem to be changing, right? There are changes afoot with travel, it would appear. Hello from the Netherlands as well. Someone else from the UK there. That'll be Steve. Battleground, Washington. Yep, South Africa's in the house tonight. Greetings from the suburbs of Chicago, Maryland, US, and lovely people talking to each other in the comments. That's great to see. Colorado represented. My name is Suzette. My husband Scott and I are arriving to visit in the month of July, checking out to relocate. Hope you have a great visit. Do ask your questions tonight, Suzette. Please do that. Ruth is here in Alcobaça tonight, already in Portugal, obviously. Tamara, congratulations. Just received my visa last Friday. I plan to arrive on June the 26th. I'm so excited. Thank you for hosting this event. Which animal company did you use? I want to bring my pets, maybe just to avoid them. I don't know. I have had some trials coming in and cannot say enough wonderful things about the Portuguese people and how helpful they are, says Paula Dreyfus. That's wonderful to hear. We'll come back to the comments. Do get the questions coming in via the chat. I wonder if I can get some first impressions, please. We'll go to all of our households tonight who are taking part in the Q&A this evening. But Jordan and Rita first, what are your first impressions? What are you excited and delighted about being in Portugal at the moment?
At first, I can answer a question. Did anyone bring a shipping container? We did that when we moved to Panama, and we're planning on doing it here. I don't remember what it cost, though.
Okay.
First impression. She didn't. It's just a lovely country. Everybody's so nice.
Oh, I have a first impression.
Yeah, go.
Well, but it's compared to Panama because it's so humid and hot. And here I can breathe. It's the weather. And then the dogs walking on the street.
Well, the dogs, the stray dogs wandering the street, like they own the place.
Well, yes, but their owner is like half a block away.
Yeah, people don't seem to use leashes here.
No. Sometimes that's the case. So you've made lots of canine friends as well as human ones, by the sound of it.
No,
Yeah.
I was very impressed. They're not worried. The dog will come back. Even this little chihuahua, everybody's worried. Where did you come from? He runs half a block to this old man.
a wonderful vignette of Lisbon life. So you guys, have been staying in Airbnbs in Lisbon, of
Yes,
course,
that's right.
and by the iconic 25th of April bridge.
That's
And you're on the way to Olive Oil, Azetal. Can you give us a little bit of a clue as to why you chose that part of Portugal to live in?
Well,
No, Rita.
She picked the house.
Okay.
I picked the house. I have no idea that Azetal is different or whatever. Our realtor drove us around 2 or 3 days, and she said, "You'll find a house. You'll find a house." We were just looking around, and then the other day I had to go visit her in Santarém, which is an hour-and-a-half train from Lisbon, and I'm like, "This is a nice area. It's right by Tajo River." She never told me anything like that, but it's so many nice areas.
Yeah.
We had the experience in Panama when we were buying an apartment there. Every apartment we looked at, we hated, to be honest.
Okay.
And we looked at like 100
yeah.
apartments, and we finally settled on one. Here, every house we went to, we like, oh, this is my favorite house. Oh, this is my favorite house.
Yes,
This is my favorite house.
there's a house like there's a farm right next to it, and the owner says, "Yeah, you're welcome." I was looking for who owned that little farm because it's so well kept, and we're looking at the house that the owner is moving to Madeira. So I was falling in love with house. That was not even the house we put an offer on.
This is not uncommon. I call it San Martino de Porto syndrome. You might have heard this before, but that is a challenge in Portugal. You know, you will go to another town and you'll fall in love with that one and you'll think that's it. And then you go to another and on it will go. And it's the same thing with houses. So well done in many ways to have just sort of been brave enough to say, this house is great and good enough and we love it. We're going to be here. Because otherwise you could find yourself 2 years time still in the same sort of process or vicious cycle.
Yeah.
Yeah, so congratulations. Make sure you drink the Bacalhau wine.
Already tried it. It's fantastic. Yeah.
Oh, the property has 6, I don't know, ancient olive trees in the yard. So that's kind of.
So we'll be in the olive oil business in olive oil.
Okay, make a note of that, everybody. Some Azetal from Azetal, and supplied by the Zimmerman Can estate, I guess you would call it. Fantastic. We'll come back to you guys. Thank you so much for being here tonight. Mike, are you there? Can you give us a little bit of your first impression action tonight, please?
So really love being here. We've only been here about 2.5 weeks, I think. So we kind of committed to coming less than a month before we arrived. So
right.
We were looking at a whole bunch of different places. And we, as I say, we finally said, let's go to Portugal rather than Antigua or Thailand, which were also on our radar.
Wow.
Because they were also not the UK. And we ended up coming to Portugal because it was really cheap to live here. And when you're investing in crypto, every penny becomes so much more valuable. You just think, hey, I don't want to spend anything on anything. I just want to pile it all into investments. So wow. This is cheap, it's warm, and it's living up to those expectations. I'd also like to say that the people are lovely. You mentioned São Martinho de Porto, which I pronounced very badly, I'm sure, but that's where we live.
Oh, perfect.
It's really quiet. There's only about 2,000 residents here, people officially, and I've seen 5 or 6 of them. It's
Don't worry. They're coming. The people are coming.
It's going to get busy next month.
Yes.
This is not somewhere to come if you want to party. This is a really quiet place. I haven't found a good eating establishment here, but that's not a problem. I'm sure there are. We just haven't discovered them yet.
I will PM you something. Actually, I'll tell you now. Anna and Ricardo in the Bicultural Bar, back from the beach. Lovely people. Started a restaurant a couple of years ago, I think 2 or 3 years ago. They've weathered this storm and they're still open. And they need your crypto inspired spending at their place. Seriously, anyone who goes to São Martinho de Porto, check out the Bicultural Bar. But that's fantastic. I get the feeling you're happy to be out of the UK, Mike. Am I right?
What gave you that impression? Yes, I'm fleeing oppression in the UK.
Yes, and you were saying you live a frugal living. That's a kind of lifestyle choice, is it? And it fits in perfectly well here in Portugal.
Yeah, I mean, it's I mean, I've learned very late in life the value of saving and investing versus spending more than you have, which is how most people live, right?
Yeah.
If you're making 1,000 a month, then you'll spend 1,010
Yes.
or 1,100. But if you can learn to spend 900 on an income of 1,000, life is pretty blissful.
Yeah.
So we've just taken that to the nth degree.
Very interesting, and I'm sure other people will be fascinated by your crypto adventure. And as a side note, we are thinking of starting a cryptocurrency, well, certainly an investment club with Expats Portugal, and I think there may be an offshoot, because sometimes they're uneasy bedfellows, aren't they, the traditional investment world and cryptocurrency. So we might have to have an alternative investment club dealing with crypto as well, and I hope you'll be part of that. Mike, for the time being, thank you so much. Really appreciate you being here tonight. So let's go to David and Iryna with first impressions, please.
Oh, wow. It's so hard to, I guess, articulate the specifics because it's so different from where we came from. We were living in the desert. It was 50 Celsius every day, 7 months a year. We were escaping a different kind of weather problem than the Brits.
Yes.
But the weather has been incredible, even though we've been in Porto now for almost 2 weeks, and it's a bit rainy up here, I might say, but the weather has really been amazing. And the people are incredibly friendly. We like to go hiking almost every day. And every time we pass somebody, whether on a bicycle or a horse, they stop and they say, well, we stop it, they'll say, bon dia, boa tarde, and it's incredible to have that kind of interaction just with people you pass. Yeah. And then if you just look slightly lost or confused in a store or anywhere, it's amazing how somebody comes up to you and invariably tries to help out. And that's just a beautiful thing.
Oh, wonderful.
And I think, yeah, prices are a wonderful thing. We appreciate, we're surprised, we enjoy comparing the prices from back home to here, especially for things like healthcare. If you're from the US, you know exactly what we're talking about in terms of high prices. But even little things, we'll go to the grocery store and I forget what we were looking at today. And just we're thinking that's half of what it would have been at home, and it's amazing and a better quality. So just amazing. I think. What would you say? First impressions.
Well, first impression, people are amazing, very welcoming and friendly and helpful. And food is amazing. Quality is good. Ingredients are very simple, but they're very high quality. So all the dishes are pretty good. Yeah. We like good food.
Yes.
And of course, weather. We enjoy the weather. We enjoy, even when they say it's hot here, it's winter in Phoenix.
It's all relative, isn't it? That's amazing. You said you go hiking every day. So am I right in thinking you're not city centre Porto? Are you in a suburb?
We're about 20 minutes outside of Porto. And I don't know, the name of the city is Sarnand, I think. Totally saying that wrong, I'm sure. But very small, I don't know, 10 houses, and 2 of them are restaurants. So it's
that's amazing. I've unmuted Anna because she can always help us with the pronunciation. Did you catch that, Anna?
I did not catch the name of the place. You have to repeat, please.
Sarnand, Sarnande.
Sarnand?
Yep, that's what he said, kind of.
You must be right.
Yeah. Well, I don't know the place. Maybe it's very small place.
Very small.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have a metro line? The metro line passes by. It's interior. It's interior or it's near the ocean.
It's interior. 20 minutes inside. Yeah.
Okay. I don't know the place. Sorry.
We're enjoying the road system with the car. So.
Okay.
Amazing. It's like Porto 20 questions for a minute there. Interior or seaside? Yeah, 5 tractors or 10 tractors. But we'll come back. We'll come back to that. We'll come back to that. I just unmuted Paula as well, because being in Porto, did you say today or this week?
I just got in today, Thursday. I arrived to Lisbon a week ago.
Yep.
Yesterday I left Lisbon and I rented a car one way, and I spent the night in Aveiro. And I arrived here today after having lunch with Louise, who's one of our other expat members. We had a lovely lunch in Aveiro this morning or this afternoon.
Excellent.
And I ran into some crazy things, and some people have asked me about, or have asked in the notes about travel arrangements. And I don't want to name any brand names, but I will be happy in any kind of private messaging to tell you the problems I've had with one of the online travel people.
All right.
But for instance, I arrived last Thursday evening to find out. So when I go on these travel sites, I always click pet friendly, always, because I have a 10-pound dog. And I arrived at the hotel and they're like, no dogs, sorry.
Okay.
Well, it's 6 p.m. What am I supposed to do? You know? Yeah. So anyway, I ended up finding a hotel. It cost twice as much. These people don't want to refund my money. So it's been kind of a headache. I'm going through that with my credit card company. Okay. Rented a car to come up here and forgot to make, this is all on me, forgot to make a reservation in Aveiro and couldn't find a place that would take a dog. Went to a very fancy hotel. They wouldn't take my dog, but she found me a hotel. The lovely lady at the desk found me a hotel to spend the night. When I got here today, my Google Maps could not find my Airbnb, and which is not the place I had the problem with in Lisbon, by the way. And I got here and I couldn't find it, and I was so frustrated. I finally illegally parked, jumped out, ran into some city office. I don't even know who these people were. Told him what my problem was. He goes, "Oh, well, see, there's this little road that Google can't see that goes down, and beside that road that you keep going around and around in a circle on, I'm in downtown Porto." And so I jump back in my car and I get here. I was supposed to have turned in my car at noon. It's now like 4 o'clock. The darling person who runs this place just calmed me down. She called Hertz. She goes, "You guys close at 1." You know, she's telling this in Portuguese. "You guys close at 1. That's too early." She got them to give me a free day. So I'm turning it in the morning. She got me in here. And the only thing we're struggling with right now, Louise, is the heat.
Yes. There's not much we can do about that. It's the day you chose to be here. Paula, thank you so much for that little vignette. That's fantastic.
Yeah. Well, I had great, the weather's been great, but I have no heat in my room.
Yeah, so it's cooler in the evenings, of course.
It's very cold.
Yes. Well, there will be,
I'm going to be skipping out a little bit early to go meet with the person who's going to help me figure out how to have heat.
Fair enough. Well, thank you for your contribution there. Really appreciate it.
Everyone's been just wonderful.
That is lovely to hear. That's lovely to hear. Thank you so much.
And I'm glad I'm here after all of that.
Appreciate it. Thank you. And welcome to Portugal. Fantastic.
Thank you. Thank you.
Going back to some of the comments and questions now, let's bring it back to our guests this evening, Jordan and Rita, David and Iryna, and Mike, of course. We use Pets Fly, say David and Iryna. We think they did a fairly good job. It's just very stressful for the dogs, so nothing wrong with the company necessarily. It's just a bit of a difficult process. Maria brought her dog, the Bichon Frise. He traveled in a cabin, so that's possible too. I wouldn't do it again for any dogs over 65 kilos. He was squished and not happy for the 7-hour flight, so a bit tricky. Sorry, I can unmute you, Maria, so you can say this yourself as well. Let's have a look. Yeah, so the shipping container thing. Thank you, Jordan, for your contributions on that. Mike, have you got a solution for bringing your stuff over, or is your frugal living plan just to ditch all your stuff and become a minimalist?
Absolutely the latter. Yes, we ditched all our stuff and became minimalists. Although we did find IKEA when we arrived, and so our plans to be minimalist are sort of dwindling a little bit.
There are many shops that will scupper that plan, don't you worry. And within 6 months, you'll have as much stuff as you got rid of, I suspect. Or have you go to a Chinese shop as well? The same thing can happen here in Portugal, the Chinese shop phenomenon. So yes, David and Iryna, can I ask you about possessions and bringing things over, and which approach you've taken?
Yeah, we packed it all up, and it's sitting in LA waiting for us to settle enough to receive it over here. And so we're doing a 40-foot container. It's not full. We tried to do 20, but we couldn't. get rid of enough stuff to get down to 20. So, so we're living out of our suitcases in the meantime. So it's only been a couple months. What's the big deal?
Yeah, but every time you need a ball gown and a dinner jacket, it just becomes a bit awkward.
We just do a lot of laundry.
Yeah, very good, very good. I don't know if any of you have brought if shipped a car or a motorcycle or even a bicycle. There are questions about that.
My understanding is that the taxes are just way too high. I was in Panama too, so we're gonna sell our car in Panama and buy one here.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, did anyone bring a bicycle on your flight? I don't know if any of you have done that. That's quite a specialist question, isn't it? And if so, how did you pack them? Somebody else in the audience may well be able to answer that. And as Astrid said earlier on, there is time. There will be time later on to throw open the mics and people to ask questions of each other. Bob, we're in process to get our visa. We have an appointment on June the 24th in San Francisco. Well, that's great. Good luck with that, Bob. Sharon is costing us $6,700 from Oregon for 20 feet of shipping container, just as a guide there with that particular company. And the question, what city is Jordan living in? Currently in the capital in Lisbon, right?
Yeah, we can't pronounce the name, but we're right underneath the April 25th bridge.
Yep, a great place to be. Fabulous. Alcantara. There you go. Alcantara. Thank you, Anna.
Alcantara.
Yeah, I don't know about other places in Lisbon, but the impression is, unless you're a little bit outside of town, it's all apartments. Is that right?
Yes, most of the neighborhoods are apartments. There are some parts that have houses, detached houses,
Yeah.
but very luxury neighborhoods. But yes, there are some of them.
You should have seen our Airbnb host. So we have 3 bags, well, 2 regular ones, not extra large one, and a small one. We showed up, his face turned white because I guess it wasn't clear, but we have to go up 5 flight of 15 steps. And he wanted to help. It was hard.
He was a lot younger than me, so he helped.
They're narrow steps, you know.
Yeah.
No lift.
Yeah.
Old buildings, no
lift.
lift. Yeah.
That's a really good observation. Yeah, great observation, that Anna. Some of the old apartment blocks in Lisbon won't have a lift, so you will be facing that. So that's
especially if they are only like 4 stages or 5.
Yes.
If they are higher, sometimes they have, even the older ones. But if they are 3, 4, 5, maybe they don't have a lift. It's good to ask in advance. Yeah.
But now I know, so I pay attention to see if it is a lift available. And
very good. That's a lesson
and,
learned.
About the bikes, sorry, Carl, I don't know if I can add some information. I have an Airbnb and I received Cascais has a triathlon, the run and the swim and the cycling, and I have received also some people that are going to be there, and they brought the bikes on the plane, but they disassemble them. But there are special boxes, special cases, and they send the bikes on the flight with them, disassembled. So
perfect,
because they are professional bikes. I guess for regular bikes you can have a different case and you can bring the bicycles also. And
I didn't imagine we would be answering that specialist question in
I can answer that one for you.
Go on, Colin.
I have friends that go abroad from the UK, 3 of them or 4 of them, and they take their bikes and go on cycling holidays. What they do is they go to the local bike shop and they ask for a box, and they're only too pleased to give the boxes to people.
So the original shipping box that the manufacturers.
The bike arrived in the shop.
Yeah, cool.
And then you just take the pedals off and whatever else to get them in within the box, and then they go to the airport like that.
Brilliant. Okay, thank you, Colin. Let's get back to our just landed panel then, and a question from Monju. We are planning on a month-long visit, our first in October, with the goal of finding a place to move permanently. So this is the position you've all been in, Jordan and Rita, David and Iryna, and Mike. We have an appointment with a travel agent on Monday. Any tips? Mike, if I can ask you first, I mean, you just looked at Portugal and said that's where we're going. Where did you decide to land and begin your adventure?
The criteria was very minimal. We wanted to be within easy reach of Lisbon for flying in and out, should we need to be able to do that. And we wanted to be coastal, and we didn't want it to be really hot, so Algarve was out. Also, I was committed to learning the language, so I didn't want to go to the Algarve because there wouldn't be much pressure to learn Portuguese. So I just looked online, just looking for aggregator sites that show, lots of estate agent, advertisements, and found a place called Green Acres. And the first place I looked at was amazing. It's a large 2-bedroom place, all brand new, wooden floors, just decorated, 2 bath showers, a balcony, and another outside area, right opposite a fresh food market, and 5 minutes walk from the beach. And the beach here is like a mile long, and empty. It feels like a private beach. We asked Colin. Hello, Colin. We asked Colin because Expats Portugal, first thing you should do is join Expats Portugal. That is not solicited. That is a completely unsolicited plug.
I'm blushing.
One of the first people I got in touch with by chance was Colin, and he lives just outside of Lisbon, and he volunteered to come up here and check out the place, and which I compensated him for with some tea and other things. And
cheap date, the cheap date.
It was he was very helpful and very generous, and he checked the place out, and we just jumped in and signed a 10-month contract. It's 850 euros a month, plus bills. And where I come from in Brighton, for the people that are from the UK who are online tonight, it's the smallest studio flat or 1-bedroom flat you can get in Brighton and Hove cost you about the same as what I'm living in now, and it's a large modern 2-bedroom place.
Yes, got it. And actually we should say quite expensive by Portuguese standards, but you've got the most amazing location and facilities there, haven't you? And that's what you'd be paying for.
Yeah, absolutely.
Amazing. So
we've got everything like within 5 minutes walk.
Yeah, superb, and that's worth paying for, isn't it?
So we don't have to run a car.
Yeah.
I could the coach to Lisbon is like 11 euros.
Yes. Is that
the train, and it's only an hour and a half. The train to the next town, which has got a lot more shops than here, is €1.60 or €1.80 or something. And it takes 9 minutes.
Yeah.
It's If at some point we might, rent a car, and buying a car over here is really unusually expensive because of the taxes. But to rent a car here is the cheapest I've seen anywhere. So it's very cheap to rent a car.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you, Mike. We'll come back to you. Let's ask the same question of like, where did you choose and why? Let's go to David and Iryna on that. Where did you choose to begin your search in Portugal, please?
We started in Lisbon just because that's where we were coming in, and we were waiting for the dogs to arrive. They came 3.5 days after we gave them up. Yeah. So we wanted, and also to make sure we were taking care of any paperwork that we needed to. So we spent a week in Lisbon, and then we went to Setúbal or actually Palmela for a month, just shy of a month. And now we're just outside of Porto. So our approach is we have opinions about what looks great, but until we go and spend some time there, you don't really know. And we're starting to get much better ideas. Actually, our next stop after this is Panama, which is just east of Peniche.
Yep.
That little pimple, if you think of the map that sticks out from the side of Portugal. And so we've been all over the place. We haven't been to very much Alentejo or in Algarve or as far east as Castro Branco, but we've been up and down the coast on the west side, other than that, and to a lot of places, and starting to get an idea of what's interesting. But I am so glad that we didn't lock into something.
Yes.
And we're taking our time to experience it. Yeah, we initially we thought the north would be great because running from the heat in Arizona, okay, what do you want? You want some cold. And so what if it rains here? We had 7 inches a year back home, so it's all going to feel like more rain. That's what we thought. And now that we've been up here, it's incredibly beautiful, but we're really thinking we'd rather settle someplace not quite so cold and rainy. Yeah.
Excellent, and that's a very interesting approach as well. So you've got the time to go around and experience places for yourself, and that's the strategy you've got.
And having a car for us made a huge difference. So I absolutely appreciate those who are doing a car free.
Yeah,
we've had challenges, but a blast. I don't think we went the wrong way on a one-way street more than 4 times in one day. So we're having a lot of fun with it. And in fact, driving through the Douro Valley is just indescribable.
Yes.
So
that's so special. That's fantastic.
She was a little terrified because she was the passenger, but I was having a blast.
Yeah, after the drive, I decided I can't live here because I can't drive here.
Oh, okay. We'll come back to that because there are some questions in the comments in the chat there about driving in Portugal. So I'll come back to you separately after we've heard from Jordan and Rita about what the starting point was in Portugal for them and why. Jordan and Rita, you there?
Yeah, so most people don't know, but Panama had one of the most severe lockdowns in the world. For 9 months, we basically couldn't leave our apartment, save 2 hours every other day.
Wow.
So I didn't have a lot to do. My addiction became deciding where in the world to live, and we quickly settled on Portugal. And I started looking at all the areas. Being a musician, I wanted to be close to Lisbon, so that was my criteria. So we kind of drew a radius around Lisbon and said, well, we're interested in Cascais, Estoril, Sintra, Setúbal, those kind of areas. And became addicted to Idealista and Green Acres and all that. So I kind of had a map of things I wanted to do when I arrived, and we hooked up with some real estate agents and we traveled around. We went to Cascais, Estoril, Sintra. You know, when you get to Sintra, you realize, well, it's too cold and rainy there.
Yes.
Cascais was a little too expensive and touristy for us. And we just liked the southern area in Setúbal. We saw a bunch of places we liked there. As far south as Setúbal, in I forget the name of that other place we found. Marisol, we found a place. Like I said, every house we saw we liked.
Yes.
Palmela.
Okay.
But then we saw this house and we had some criteria. Rita wanted a garden. I needed a place to work. I needed to be quiet. I needed to be relatively close to Lisbon. And Ajatão is a half an hour from Lisbon, 20 minutes from Setúbal, 20 minutes from the beaches. It just kind of hit the sweet spot.
Amazing. Okay. Yeah, and you've made a decision fairly quickly, as we heard earlier on.
Someone is asking, how do you spell the town? It's Azeita, A with an umlaut, out. Oh,
very good. Ajatão.
The realtor was driving and said, I promise you, before you will put a bid on it. You will buy the house. So we had a bid and she won.
She won it every way. She won it every way that day, I think. Congratulations on buying your house. I think it's an absolutely beautiful place. While we're with you then, talking about driving, what do you make of driving and motoring in Portugal?
We're not driving yet. I will be getting a car, but we're doing trains and buses and walking mostly right now.
But no matter which town you go, if you drive near the center of the older part, it's a maze. It is it's a maze. You go one way down and you wait until somebody comes this way. It's It's like circles.
So are you thinking you're going to stick with public transport then? Or are you going
No,
to?
we're gonna buy a car for sure.
Okay. When you feel ready and confident.
I'll use Uber for sure.
Brilliant. Mike, you say you don't want to, or you haven't bought a car. Your life is at your fingertips where you live. You might hire a car. What do you think of motoring and driving here as a viewer so far, Mike Freeman?
Well, I haven't driven myself. I've been in an Uber a few times in Lisbon, and we got an Uber from the airport up to where we live here in São Martinho, and that was cool. I'm happy driving. I've driven, many different countries around the world. I find it quite easy to flip from left to right-hand drive and so on and so forth. I enjoy driving. I'm a bit of a petrol head, but I'm going without whilst until the end of this crypto bull run.
Yes. I think you'll enjoy driving in Portugal and enjoy Tesla or whatever you're going to buy.
Yeah. Well, it's actually strange you should mention that. We'd like to buy somewhere, like 5 acres of land somewhere, and go off grid and be like self-sustaining. In which case, yes, a Tesla or some sort of electric car would be in the works.
Charged by your own solar panels, by the sound of it.
Exactly. I like the idea of that.
What a vision. Okay, so San Martino de Porto is the base camp for this future that you're creating and working towards, right?
I mean, we didn't choose this area. We didn't choose this town. That's purely by chance. And one thing that we've realized, my wife and I, is we are incredibly lucky. We could have stuck a pin in a map and it would have been great.
Yes. Yes, true. I did do that. I stuck a pin in a map and I got San Martino de Porto as well. It's quite uncanny. But I think you would have been, as I think the point you're making there is that you'd have probably been fine in most places in Portugal, given your experience so far.
True. Yeah.
Amazing. Okay, David and Iryna, driving. You mentioned there, you're a little bit scary for Iryna. I think possibly on some of those city drives, and maybe hanging close to the edges of the Douro Valley. Anything else to say about driving in Portugal from you two? For David.
Well, it's very helpful to have GPS. I don't know how anybody came here and navigated without one before they existed. We've been happy to use Waze, but the car has a system as well, the car that we bought. And so that's actually a very friendly system to use. So we like to use that when we can. Google works also, but Waze is a better app in our opinion. It warns you where the speed traps are when there's a car on the side of the road, things like that, which Google doesn't quite seem to do as much of. And it tells you which lane to get in, which is a huge plus.
Yes.
It's still very challenging because sometimes it says go half left, go half left, go half left, and we're wondering how many lefts are left.
Yes. Yeah. 4 lefts, and you're thinking, hold on a minute, this is familiar.
Yeah, exactly. Let's just go home. But the roundabouts aren't much of a challenge. We don't have them back in the US, or very few of them. And I think the rules are a little bit different in Portugal anyway.
Yes.
Than the rest of Europe, but they're not terribly difficult, I think. No, it's the bigger challenge is when the GPS sends you through the very, very small, getting smaller alleys. They call it a road. It's a rua or an avenida, but it's about 3 inches wider than the car. And and then it turns, and you have now. So a couple of times we backed up and gone a different direction, but she redirects once you do that, and it works out. And outside of Lisbon and Porto, even Porto is not terrible to drive in. It's a little challenging, but it's not that. It's really Lisbon. It's the scariest place. But once you get outside of that area, it's been really not hard at all and a lot of fun. I tell you, the tollways here, if you're from the US, you think the interstate highways, these tollways are so much better than anything we have at home. And every 40 kilometers, there's we call it a rest stop, service area. And they have a restaurant, and they have, I won't say nice, but they have bathrooms. They have, you can get gas, and actually Calibri is our favorite. We're ranking them now. Calibri is the best.
Brilliant.
And it's better than some restaurants we've been to It's very clean, friendly service. It's wonderful. So, and Via Verde, we highly recommend too. So if you are renting a car, which we did at first, it took us a couple of weeks to buy one, and then we got our own Via Verde when we purchased our own car, and that's a huge plus too. So not only does it help with tolls, but it helps with parking, which in Lisbon or in Porto can be a challenge. And it's so nice to just pull into a parking garage and have it automatically record when you went in and when you went out, and you don't have to find the station to pay. Or one case when we didn't have Via Verde, we got to the gate and couldn't get out, and so she had to get out of the car, and the guy comes over and says, "What are you doing?" And it didn't take too long, and only a few honks from people behind us, but we managed to get out. But so Via Verde is a wonderful thing. We love that.
So just so people know what that is, this is the little unit, the transponder unit that goes on the windscreen of the car. It triggers the toll roads so that they can send you, charge you to your credit card or whatever card you put against the bill. And it works in parking garages as well, as you've said there, which is a real bonus, isn't it, to not have to worry about going to the ticket machine, having the right change or anything like that. Were you a bit scared of some of the entrances into car parks in Lisbon? I mean, you look, suddenly the road disappears to a 1-in-1 incline down into 5 stories of underground car parks. That takes a bit of getting used to, doesn't it?
It did help that we were renting a car to begin with, so it wasn't ours to worry about. And then when we bought much smaller than we're accustomed to back home. So we had what we would call a full-size car back home. We bought an A3, which is probably a large car here, but to us it feels like a micro mini practically. It's very small.
You bought an A3?
Yeah.
That's what I want to buy too. The Sportback? Excuse me, the Sportback?
Yes, the Sportback.
That's the car I'm going to buy.
Highly recommend it.
Highly recommend right there. Okay, that's brilliant. I'm glad you've made that connection, because I want to ask you, David. I think that's quite brave, buying a car newly arrived in Portugal. I use rental cars myself still, after a few years. What was that process like, buying a car? Because Jordan wants to know as well.
It was challenging. The hard part was just navigating the Portuguese system and figuring out how do you find a car that works for you.
Yeah.
And what's available, because we came from the US, the brands, the models are somewhat different. So it took us actually longer than we expected, I think, to finally make the purchase.
Yeah.
But once we figured out what the stands were like and how to get the actual information about what they've got, what's available, and the paperwork process itself wasn't really that challenging. One stop at the bank to get this and that covered, and a call to an insurance agent, and that was pretty much it. I mean, we found the car on the internet. We went to the place. It was exactly what we wanted. We looked at a couple of others and test driven something a little bit larger to ensure that we really needed something smaller to begin with, and it wasn't that challenging. And no, I just seen the question, and to jump on that, we're still using our Arizona licenses. We've got some time, but we will convert to the Portuguese licenses.
And we do have international ones that does have Portugal in it.
Yeah.
Brilliant. And you bought the car from an individual or from a dealership?
Stan, I would not buy from an individual. I think we wanted our first experience to be as thorough and complete as possible. I didn't want to take the risk, because I understand an automobile can have, here it's a little different than in the US, and a car can have issues attached to it, not to the person, the previous owner. So if there can be a lien or a ticket or something attached to the car, we didn't want to take any chances. We knew that we were a little bit safer buying from a stand. And also it came with a 2-year warranty, and it's not a new car. It's fairly new. It didn't have very many kilometers on it, but it came with a 2-year warranty, which is pretty comforting too, knowing that we were going to have some challenges and some adventures, I guess I'd like to say. Yeah.
Yeah. The investigation I've done, I've always bought new cars, but it seems prohibitive here. And you can buy a used car from a dealer here with low mileage and save 10,000 euros. So it seems like a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Well, I don't feel like you save anything because they're so expensive, but they also depreciate much slower, my understanding is, than
that's true. They hold their value. Yeah.
They hold their value. And you're driving down the road and you see a car next to you, and you think, oh, that's interesting. It looks nice. And you look at the little sticker and the license plate and it's a 2010.
Yeah.
Well, it looks, practically brand new. I mean, you can tell it's a slightly older model if you know the models at all, but the ones on the road are in very good shape here relatively.
Yeah,
a lot of them. There's always a few.
Yes, sometimes you'll see a new wing made from hardboard and held on with cable ties. That thing happens as well. And for the people who love the cars of their childhood, there's a few of those knocking about as well. Some really nice nostalgic motor vehicles around as well, as Colin will tell you. That's really helpful. Thank you for that on the cars there. We're getting questions about banking as well, managing money as a newbie in Portugal, which is a really important question, I think. Mike, I'll go to you because I'm sure you'll have a very progressive answer.
Could I just say something on the cars?
Please, yes.
David made a very good point there about the depreciation side of the cars. And it really is possibly sensible here to lease a car.
Okay.
Because of the high residuals.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
For anybody out there that really has a problem with knowing what models are what and what size they are, please email me. I'm happy to give advice on anything.
And all for a cup of tea.
All for a cup of tea.
All for a cup of tea. How about that?
Tea.
So let's go to Mike Freeman on this matter of managing money whilst being newly here in Portugal. Somebody was talking about Wise. I like Revolut myself. Do you have anything to add to that, Mike?
I've used most of those cards. I actually prefer Wise. I use a pretty secure operating systems on my phones. And Revolut doesn't work, as do very few banking apps. Wise does. So I like Wise because they don't require me to run any Google software on my phone.
Okay, but some people will be very interested in that the audience today. That's fascinating. Okay, and then opening up Portuguese bank accounts. How have you found that? You've been practicing your autograph presumably while doing that process.
No, well, we've only been here 2.5 weeks. Okay, so we haven't even got a NIF yet.
What?
We God, yeah, not already. I haven't got one yet. So we went to the local town just south of here, the first stop on the train, which is we were going there anyway. We knew we probably needed an appointment, but we thought we'd go and check it out, see where it was, see what was required. We had to get an email address that was on a note in the window, and we have to email them in Portuguese and give them a telephone number so that they can call us with an appointment.
That's very thorough, isn't it?
Yes. I'm wondering if somebody needs to answer the phone in Portuguese as well, because that could be a bit of a problem.
Yes, that is a really interesting moment, and that will bring your Portuguese language skills on no end, Mike, if you answer in that moment of panic when you answer the phone to a Portuguese delivery driver or someone ringing from the bank.
The last time something was being delivered and the driver called me and couldn't speak English, I ran down the stairs and went to the florist opposite and just handed her the phone and said, "Hi, can you help me?"
Wow.
And just handed my phone.
Right. And they did.
And she helped the driver find where we were.
Fabulous. Forgive me if I'm repeating myself, but I couldn't speak to the person trying to deliver something to me. I sent them my location, which wasn't home. It was a nearby cafe. And she stood in the doorway with my parcel a few minutes later. And I said, "Do you want a coffee? Querem café?" And she was too busy. But that's just so Portuguese and fantastic. Yeah. Brilliant.
Yeah. People are wonderful here.
Yeah. Anything else to say about finances?
A question in the chat, not about finances, but about they asked how much it costs to rent a car here. Now I haven't actually rented one. I've just looked online and I've seen them as cheap as like 300 or 400 euros a month for a very small car. I don't know whether you'd recommend going that cheap, or what do you spend on renting a car?
At the moment, it's 90 euros for a week, and that's because it's spiked a little bit with returning tourists. I
would imagine it's very seasonal. So over the next 2 months, it's probably going to be quite expensive.
Yes, we recommend Zest, an agency that where you can pick up in the Algarve and Lisbon at the moment. And you go onto the Zest website and they will go to a number of providers in Portugal. And there will be the ones, it's an interesting subject because there will be the ones that say, you know, like €3 a day. And then by the time you've got to the checkout, you are paying €3 a day for your car, but you are also probably having to pay the insurance thing for the unlikely event of, you know, some terrible act happening that you're terrified into buying. And before you know it, you've actually spent more than going to my favorite, if I could plug my own favorite company, it's Rent Auto, one of the providers on Zest. And they give, especially in the winter when tourists aren't coming here, it really is a good way to use a vehicle. And if you're tax savvy, it's an expense. Partly, you know, you can put some of your business expense from your rental spending on there. So I would agree with you, Mike. I think hiring a car is good and good value. And I think we will be looking corporately as Expats Portugal, along with Colin, into the value of leasing in Portugal. So that's work in progress for us. But I agree with Colin. I think it's a useful consideration, leasing. I think Jerry does as well. And that's something we will say more about in the coming weeks and months in terms of leasing a motor vehicle.
Also, if you're a digital nomad, you're not necessarily coming to set routes, set down routes here.
Yeah.
And so you don't want to take on any long-term cost like that. So
well
renting is or leasing, if there's some sort of easy cancellation clause in your contract, if you're not leasing for too long, then it's going to be much better. I mean, we're definitely planning to buy, we're likely to buy property here, but we still will probably, even after buying property here, we'll probably only spend 4 or 5 months of the year here.
Yeah. Okay.
So it will be one of our homes.
Fantastic.
We'll still be moving around.
There you go. That gives you a little
which
clue.
is related to my financial planning.
Yes, and a little clue into the life of a crypto investor there. And investments can go up as well as down, we should say at this point.
Yes, as they have very, very much so. The largest pullback I've witnessed personally since getting into crypto.
Yes, what a scary
45% of my portfolio wiped out in 72 hours.
And Mike is still smiling. Look at this. He's still smiling. He's got a long-term view, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. A hodler, I think you're known as in the trade, aren't you?
Yes, I'm learning to. I want to move into more technical analysis and a little bit be able to take profits as it's going up.
Yes.
So that when it comes down, you can buy back in at the dip.
Very interesting. Very interesting. I want to talk to you some more about that. Sure. So a final question for now, before we go to queuing up at the mic and asking things that I've missed, because there have been so many comments and questions in the chat, and I really appreciate that. I really appreciate Jordan and Rita and David and Iryna and Mike being here tonight, as giving as they have been this evening. But one final question for the three households here. Great one for Michael back. Is there any specific process that any of you went through that you could have done better?
Hang on a second.
With more or better preparation, had you? I'll stay with you, Mike, to answer that first of all, if I may.
One thing that comes to mind specifically for anyone who's coming from the UK, you have to fill out you're required under pain of some thousands of pound fine if you're caught without it, fill out a form where you have to give a good excuse as to why you are planning to leave the UK. That's exactly how they word it. You need a good excuse to leave the UK. And if you don't have this form on you, or if you haven't filled it out online, and a police officer or somebody at the airport stops you and asks for it, I think it's a £3,000 fine or something. But during the process of getting onto the flight, somebody had to question us about our marriage and proof of our marriage to make sure that Amy could actually come with me. They got on the phone to immigration, and we were standing there for about 10 minutes wondering whether or not we were actually going to make it. But in that process, he pointed out that if we have a property here, then we can just put down visiting our property.
Yes.
Even though it's a rental property.
Yeah.
We can just put down visiting our property, and that is a good enough reason to leave the UK.
Okay, so that's what you mean about having an excuse to be out of the UK, and that is yours. You're going.
Yeah, I didn't realize that at the time, and I was kind of like, if you go on all the UK websites and other websites and the Portuguese websites talking about, especially during COVID and everything, talking about an okay reason to travel, emigration is not mentioned.
Yes. Okay.
So
and
I didn't know whether that was a good enough reason or a not good enough reason, because it was very vague. It was a gap. So when we turned up to the airport, we actually didn't know whether we were going to make it or not.
Okay. All right. On account of having the right. Yeah, I think those restrictions are changing, and I think they are pandemic related. That's not a requirement of the Portuguese government or immigration.
No. There were about 3 different documents that we need to fill out. One was for the SEF.
Yeah.
I think another one was Portugal related, and then there was one for the UK as well. Apparently, the airlines get a €10,000 fine if they let somebody on the flight who doesn't have a legal right to enter the country.
Wow. Okay. So yes, they're obviously
they're vigilant.
They're going to be vigilant. That's the right word, isn't it? Interesting for you Brits to bear in mind, and I think will be changing in the next couple of weeks anyway. But an interesting thing, and being challenged about your marriage, you've got to be ready to give your wife a big kiss and say, "I love this woman." If you're married. Okay. Let's go to David and Iryna then. What might you have done differently, if anything? That brilliant question from Michael back.
That's a tough question. I was sitting and thinking while Mike was talking, and I really couldn't come up with anything significant. We did a lot of research before we came. We listened to a lot of experts, particularly Expats Portugal and EI were a huge help to us. And there are a number of people over here with videos, who do videos on a regular basis that were a big help to us. So I felt like we were really very prepared. And we treat everything else that we've come across that we weren't prepared for as an adventure anyway. So that just makes it more interesting, the small problems, and there were no big ones. So knock wood, I don't have to find something.
That is so good to hear. That's so good to hear. Wonderful. Long may it continue. Thank you, David and Iryna. Jordan and Rita, finally then on the formal questioning tonight. So I don't mean to make it sound like a court case, but yes, anything you'd have done differently?
Well, for us, we'd already emigrated once to Panama, so we were not newbies. But the thing that I wish I'd known, and we're not paid for this, I wish I'd found Expats Portugal, because I did a lot of research and I ended up with a lawyer who was fine, but not very thorough and charged us a lot of money and missed a bunch of things. Anyways, kind of halfway through it, we found Expats Portugal, who then connected us with Imigrante, or however you pronounce that thing.
We have that problem as well. EI, let's go with EI migration.
EI migration.
Yeah.
And we were having a great deal of difficulty getting a bank account. As US citizens, I don't know if people know, it's very difficult to get a bank account. We were told Atlantico would give us a bank account, but after 3 months, they still hadn't done it. And Imigrante got us a bank account in a couple of weeks with Millennium, and that solved a lot of problems. They got us our NIF. They're going to complete our CEF appointment with us. It made everything so much easier. So I kind of wish that somebody's saying Portuguese Scotch, that would be an oxymoron, but I'm still interested.
That's a project for us, Gordon, I think, to research, isn't it?
Anything you would do differently, Rita? Okay.
That's great. Well, thank you so much in this segment of the webinar tonight. It's been amazing. Thank you very much, Jordan and Rita. Thank you, David and Iryna. And thank you, Mike Freeman. I hope you can stick around for a bit longer, at least till 9 with us, to take questions that I may well have and probably have missed from the chat. Thanks to everyone also watching for your excellent attention. So do put your hand up now if you want to ask a specific question that may have been missed, or that you're thinking, yeah, those guys are doing what I want to do. I want to ask them a specific question. So do make yourself known now. Anna, you often have something useful, pithy and interesting to say from a Portuguese point of view after hearing all these foreigners talking. Anything that comes to mind that you want to share?
I think it's funny, the driving issues. Because
Right.
for us, it's very easy to drive here. We
Yeah.
are just crazy drivers. So,
That's all there is to it.
but if you don't like the Portuguese drivers, don't go to Italy, okay?
Yeah.
Good advice. Thank you very much indeed. Okay, so I'm just going to stop the recording now. Thank you so much.